Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Learning Bhagavatam class on Thursday. Good to see you all. Today's class and guest speaker is none other than Antaranga Prabhu, who will be giving us a talk on Canto 6, Chapter 5, Nārada Muni cursed by the Prajāpati Dakṣa. Prabhuji, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, over to you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear everyone. Thank you so much again for allowing me to come and enter and speak something on Srimad Bhagavatam for my own personal purification, and hopefully we can take something from this wonderful section of Srimad Bhagavatam in the sixth canto. Before we start, we're going to start with small, quick invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear everyone. Thank you again. Just came back a few hours ago from book distribution. We are in Liverpool, where we actually starting a new Sangha. We're starting a new community here in Liverpool, and so far so good. I haven't been here for quite some time. We're doing a bit of an outreach program, and we are gearing towards a big festival, big concert, which we have on the 29th of March, this coming Saturday. So most of our time are just basically preparations for this festival. So it means a lot for me to actually be able to engage in reading Bhagavatam and prepare for this class. So thank you so much. So the way we're going to do it, this particular chapter is really, really packed with philosophy. Whenever we deal with the transcendental spaceman, Narada Muni, there's always some transcendental drama taking place. There's always some interesting angles of spirituality that we are able to learn, and something that we are able to sort of absorb. This particular chapter, Narada Muni cursed by Prajāpati Dakṣa, is a very interesting chapter of perspective. It's a very interesting chapter of duty. And it's a very interesting chapter because it speaks how all of us have different approach and different mission at hands. What it means by that Narada Muni is a not only spaceman, spiritual transcendental spaceman, but they also call him a transcendental disruptor. He always enters the scenes and disturbs the so-called flow of the events. But in the end, the outcome is always transcendental and spiritual. So today, we're going to learn why Narada Muni, for instance, can stay only in one place for a very limited time. So the story goes as follows. The pastime goes as follows. So I'm going to be reading, going to go through the translations and see where it will take us, and slowly giving a bit of elaboration. I believe this chapter has around 44 verses. So there will be a point which we're going to speed up, just hopefully to cover everything nicely. If you have any questions or any points, kindly leave them to an end of our session. I will try to make maybe like 15 minutes of space for your questions and for your points. So the verse number 1 goes, Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued, impelled by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, Prajāpati Dakṣa begot 10,000 sons. Begot 10,000 sons in the womb of Panchajani, Ashikni. My dear king, these sons were called the Hari Aswas. My dear king, all the sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa were alike in being very gentle and obedient to the orders of their father. When their father ordered them to beget children, they all went in the western direction. In the west, where the river Sindhu meets the sea, there is a great place of pilgrimage known as Narayan Saras. Many sages and others advanced in spiritual consciousness live there. In that holy place, the Haryashvas began regularly touching the lake's waters and bathing in them. Gradually becoming very much purified, they became inclined towards the activities of Paramahamsas. Nevertheless, because their father had ordered them, To increase the population, they performed severe austerities to fulfill his desires. One day, when the great sage Nārada saw the boys performing such fine austerities to increase the population, Nārada approached them. So the first initial verses basically setting up the scene, setting up the scene that question may be raised: what is that which is attractive for a guru or for a spiritual practitioner? Here was Narada Muni seeing the beautiful, effulgent, pure, very highly elevated 10,000 sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa. These personalities, because they took a birth in such a advanced household, like the household of Prajāpati, they've been naturally inclined towards following the instructions of their father. Yet the important point is that when they entered into the realm of Grihastha ashram, or preparing themselves to Grihastha ashram, in creating a progeny and creating lineage, they entered in the forest to perform austerities, to actually attract elevated and advanced souls, and to mentally, physically, and spiritually prepare themselves for the task ahead. And this unique assembly of these 10,000 purified Haryasvas attracted Narada Muni. So he was just traveling throughout the universe and he saw this great assembly of wonderful individuals. And because they've been residing already in a very sacred place, that create even deeper auspiciousness for the transcendental message to be heard. Continuing reading. The great sage Narada said, "My dear Haryashvas, you have not seen the extremities of the earth. There is a kingdom where only one man lives, and where there is a hole from which, having entered, no one emerges. A woman there who is extremely unchaste adorns herself with various attractive dresses, and the man who lives there is her husband. In that kingdom there is a river flowing in both directions, a wonderful hole made of 25 materials, a swan that vibrates various sounds, and the automatically revolving object made of sharp razors and thunderbolts. You have not seen all this, and therefore you're inexperienced boys, without advanced knowledge. How then will you create progeny?" So here we can see the transcendental way how Narada Muni present the philosophy to the boys. He gave enigmatic presentation of what they should be expecting in the material world. Later on, we're going to be discussing this message. Alas, your father is omniscient, but you don't know his actual order. Without knowing the actual purpose of your father, how will you create progeny? Sri Shukadev Goswami said, hearing these enigmatic words of Narada Muni, the Hari Ashwas considered them with their natural intelligence, without help from others. The Haryashvas understood the meaning of Narada's words as follows. The bull, the earth, refers to the field of activities. The material body, which is the result of the living being's actions, is his field of activities, and he gives him false designations. Since time immemorial, he has received various types of material bodies, which are the roots of bondage of the material world. If one foolishly engages in temporary fruitive activities and does not look toward the cessation of this bondage, what will be the benefit of his actions? So Narada Muni, as a brahmachari, as a transcendental spaceman, as someone who is there to always stir, he's seen that the field of consciousness of these young Haryasvas, these young brahmacharis, was so much ready to receive the transcendental message of renunciation and ultimately creating circumstances, positive circumstances to ending their material life. Material life means no one needs to tell us that engaging in material activities and engaging in household activities to a certain degree requires dealing with the modes of material nature, dealing with people around us, dealing with work, dealing with material flow, dealing with, to a certain degree, unnecessary things. And these unnecessary things may steer us in a direction which is not always, not completely and unnecessary spiritual, and doesn't necessarily and always lead to Krishna and to Krishna consciousness. But here Narada Muni was in a very eloquent, deep, profound, spiritual, and daring way stirring the consciousness of these young Hari Ashwas, and he was bringing them to the ultimate benefit or renunciation of these material activities. He understood that these young men are there to perform austerities and then utilize the result of those austerities to perform material activities like creating progeny, like being kings, like being rulers, like being fathers, like being socially active on this material plane. Yet Narada Muni had a different plan, slightly more transcendental plan, which is very, very much contradictory to the plan of Prajāpati Dakṣa. Continuing reading. Narada Muni had said that there is a kingdom where there is only one male. The Haryashvas realized the purport of this statement. The only enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who observes everything, everywhere. He is full of six opulences and fully independent of everyone else. He is never subject to the three modes of material nature, for he is always transcendental to this material creation. If the members of human society do not understand him, the Supreme, through their advancement in knowledge and activities, but simply work very hard like cats and dogs, all day and night for temporary happiness, what will be the benefit of their activities? So very interesting how Srimad Bhagavatam is called Amala Purana, a spotless Purana, a scripture which was presented by Vedavyas after maturity, after, interesting enough, after his darshan with his spiritual master Narada Muni. So Narada Muni is a person who is able to have an ultimate vision of ultimate goal with ultimate relationship with Krishna. Therefore, anything and everything that Narada Muni says, it's in relationship with this prayojana, with this ultimate conclusion, and that is developing a relationship with Krishna. Narada Muni is a empowered living entity and he's empowered by the intensity of the process of bhakti. So he's a personality who possesses straightforward, direct preaching model which touches the heart of living entities and is fully able to see the ultimate path towards Krishna consciousness. So he's utilizing all these wonderful, eloquent, direct words. And no doubt he's a Mahajan and he's able to present the philosophy according to time, place, and circumstances, Kala Desha Patra. And he sees these young Hari Ashvas and says, why are you engaging? Why are you utilizing all these austerities in this sacred space with the purity that you already have in your heart for the sake of again entering into the realm of material enjoyment and family life? As it is said here, through their advance in knowledge and activities, but simply work very hard like cats and dogs all day and all night for temporary happiness, what will be the benefit of their activities? What will be the benefit of your activities if these activities are not connected in the ultimate goal, and that is understanding Krishna? Narada Muni had described that there is a bila or a hole from which, having entered, one does not return. The Haryashvas understood the meaning of this allegory. Hardly once has a person who has entered the lower planetary system called Patala have been seen to return. Similarly, if one enters the Vaikuntha Dham, Pratyag Dham, he does not return to this material world. If there is such a place from which, having gone, one does not return to the miserable material conditions of life, what is the use of jumping like monkeys in the temporary material world and not seeing or understanding that place? What will be the profit? So it's very interesting that, the nature of monkeys is to be almost constantly unsatisfied, is to constantly jump from one branch to another, migrate from one place to another, almost even changing one partner for another. Constant mode of passion, and its symptom is constant dissatisfaction. And here Narada Muni is really cutting. And he said, Kim asat karma bhir bhavet. Kim asat karma bhi, with temporary fruitive activities. So this world is asat karma bhi, is a place of activities which have a beginning, have a middle, and have an end. there is a desire to create a result, there's the activity itself, and there's the result itself. And this is the vicious circle of the material life until you come to a point where you just wish to cut this vicious circle by engaging in a pure devotional service. Nārada Muni had described a woman who is a professional prostitute. The Haryashvas understood the identity of this woman. Mixed with the mode of passion, the unsteady intelligence of every living entity is like a prostitute who changes dresses just to attract one's attention. If one fully engages in temporary fruitive activities, not understanding how this is taking place, what does he actually gain? Kim asat karma bir bhavet. What is the use of this activity again? So here, the intelligence is considered as a prostitute. Prostitute is considered that someone who doesn't have a fixed residence, someone who doesn't have a fixed shelter. So this intelligence was jumping from one identity to another, from one conclusion to another, from one understanding to another. One day I'm like this, another day this is my identity. So Bhagavad Gita describes this chronology. You have the level of the senses, the level of the mind, the level of the intelligence, and ultimately the spiritual level. And if intelligence is not anchored in scriptures, in philosophy, in Krishna consciousness, in Srimad Bhagavatam, then this intelligence can be wavered in a very easy fashion. This intelligence can have this type of a conclusion, that type of a conclusion, constantly under the jurisdiction of the mind, the emotions. Like on Sankirtan and book distribution, and many times I have discussions with varieties of individuals, when you see that the uncontrolled intelligence under the dominion of the mind is justifying the sense gratification. Like for instance, today I had a conversation with one Christian gentleman, and I said to him about vegetarianism. We've been discussing how it's completely ungodly to eat meat because the body is a temple, not a graveyard. And we came to conclusion that he actually likes to eat meat. He likes the taste of it. And that made me think. And then he was utilizing Bible or the varieties of the scriptures saying that, well, actually it's okay. So it indicates that if the taste, if the desire, if the feeling, if the emotion is so potent, then it's able to utilize the intelligence as a means of justifying your emotional sort of your desires. So it's like, oh, I like it, therefore the intelligence has to come with varieties of reasons for me to engage with it without feeling remorse or without feeling any intellectual backlash. So that's why if we're associating with scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Agamas, the Itihasas, then our intelligence becomes purified to the degree that is able to overpower the restless mind and the restless emotions. So here, the intelligence is considered to be like a prostitute, had no real shelter, no real place or a husband or residence, or no residence. So this is what Narada Muni was sort of identifying, that don't allow this prostitute to venture from one place to another. Continuing reading. Narada Muni had also spoken of a man who is the husband of the prostitute. The Haryasvas understood this as follows. If one becomes the husband of a prostitute, he loses all independence. Similarly, if a living entity has polluted intelligence, he prolongs his materialistic life, what we've been discussing just now. Frustrated by material nature, he must follow the movements of the intelligence, which brings various conditions of happiness and distress. If one performs fruitive activities under such condition, what will be the benefit? Kim asat karma bir bhavet. So in these series of verses, we can see how Narada Muni is always ending with a question. Kim asat karma bir bhavet? Kim asat karma bir bhavet? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? And ultimately, the true intelligence of a man is measured by understanding the consequences of your actions. Whatever activity we enter or whatever we contemplate to enter, we should and we do think about the benefit or the result of that particular activity. So why are you entering Krishna consciousness? Why are you chanting Hare Krishna? Why you associate with devotees? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? What do you want to achieve? So Srimad Bhagavatam is here to answer predominantly this question. Kim asat karma birbhavet? What is the benefit of engaging in asat, or things which are temporary, things which come and go? What is the benefit of studying Bhagavatam? What is the benefit of performing Vaishnava Seva? So you can see the really cutting presentation of Narada Muni to these young Hari Aswas. Continuing, Narada Muni had said that there is a river flowing in both directions. The Hari Aswas understood the purport of this statement. Material nature functions in two ways, by creation and dissolution. Thus the river of material nature flows both ways. A living entity who unknowingly falls in the river is submerged in its waves, and since the current is swifter near the banks of the river, is unable to get out. What would be the benefit of performing fruitive activities in that river of Maya? Creation and dissolution. Constant creation and constant dissolution. Thus the river of material nature flows both ways. A living entity who unknowingly falls in its river is submerged in its waves. It's interesting. It's interesting how our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition functions on the level of analogies. And we can see how Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, different Puranas, different scriptures are written in the form of analogies. Why? Because we can relate to analogies. We can relate to these allegories, to these presentations. We can understand and digest the relevancy of that particular subject in a much more easy way when it's presented in such a fashion. And here, Narada Muni was speaking to the Hari Asvas in the analogies, just to challenge their intelligence, challenge their purity, and challenge their understanding. And that's why it is said, and this is the way the Hari Asvas understood. So Narada Muni spoken in a very eloquent way, almost like a code, where he was challenging and testing the true intelligence of the Hari Asvas. Will these boys truly understand the meaning and the purport of these transcendental words? Again, Kim asat karma birbhavet. The Hari Asvas understood this analogy. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of the 25 elements, and as the Supreme Being, the conductor of cause and effect, he causes their manifestation. If one engages in temporary fruitive activities not knowing the Supreme Person, what will be the benefit? The Vedic Shastras vividly describe how to understand the Supreme Lord, the source of all material and spiritual energy. Indeed, they elaborately explain these two energies. The swan, Hamsa, is one who discriminates between matter and spirit, who accepts the essence of everything, and who explains the means of bondage and means of liberation. The words of scriptures consist of variegatedness vibrations. If a foolish rascal leaves aside the study of these shastras to engage in temporary activities, what will be the result? Kimasat karma birbhavet. Here is very beautiful that Narada Muni is using this analogy of a swan, and Srila Prabhupada quite frequently utilized this analogy. Swan, I never seen it myself. I never seen it, but what Shastra says that the swan has the ability to filter water from milk. So let's say if you spill milk in a cup of water, the swan is able to absorb and be nourished by that milk uniquely and particularly, and leave the water come out. Well, I don't know how that happened. How does that happen? I heard somewhere that swan has some curdly acidic elements when it's beak in his mouth, and when he sips the milk, it curdles the milk and it goes down as almost as some form of a yogurt or cheese or some of that substance. But again, take this with pinch of salt. I'm not sure about how correct that is. But the point is, a transcendentalist is able to very strongly discriminate between that which is beneficial, positive, and spiritually conducive for his advancement, and rather he's able to let go of those elements of his life which are not necessarily helpful and practical. So, and then Narada Muni kind of steps up and is becoming really intense with these Hari Asvas. The words of scriptures consist of variegated vibrations. If a foolish rascal leaves aside the study of these Shastras, if a foolish rascals, not me speaking, Narada Muni speaking here, these Shastras to engage in temporary activities, what will be the result? What will be the result? This is text 18. What will be the result of us letting go of Krishna consciousness, of the books like Bhagavad Gita, and enter again into the pool of material activities? The result will be very dire for us. The Aryas was understood as an allegory as follows. Eternal time moves very sharply, as if made of razors and thunderbolts. Uninterrupted and fully independent, it drives the activities of the entire world. If one does not try to study the eternal element of time, what benefit can he derive from performing temporary material activities? Yes, time waits for no man. Time waits for no one except for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To him, time is a subservient. Time is a very important element within the creation. Time is something which is the ultimate element which tests everything. Time tests your determination. Time tests your spiritual qualities and your spiritual values. Time tests everything. Time heals everything. Time destroys everything. Time is able to build everything. Time is an element of movement. And time is, in the end of the day, currency. The actual currency is time because you invest your time in different things. And many times when I do book distribution and stop people, they said to me here in Liverpool, sorry, love, I'm in a rush. I have no time. Sorry, love, I'm in a rush. So, but sometimes I grab them and I say, look, my friend, what you're saying is that no, it's not like you don't have time, but this is not your priority. Anyone who says, I have no time, the brackets is, or subtitles are, I have no desire to do this, or my desire is very limited to perform this activity. So I said to them, it's not that you don't have time, this is not your priority. And if this is not your priority, then what is? And that's what Narada Muni is identifying here. For the Hari Asvas, if spiritual life is not your priority, then what is your priority? How it goes. What is your priority? Kimasat karma birbhavet. Your priority is different things. If your best friend will call you in the middle of the night saying, I really need you here and now, I really struggle, please come. You will leave your sleep, you will leave everything aside because he is your priority, she is your priority. So here, Narada Muni is identifying what should the Haryashvas prioritize. Prioritize your investments, prioritize your time, prioritize your healthy relationship with Krishna. One must accept the original instructions of the Shastra according to the Vedic civilization. One is offered a sacred thread as a sign of a second birth. One takes his second birth by dint of having received instructions in the Shastra from a bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, Shastra scripture is the real father. All the Shastras instruct that one should end his material way of life. If one does not know the purpose of the father's orders, the Shastras, he is ignorant. The word of material father who endeavors to engage his son in material activities are not the real instructions of the father. And this is really heavy. Prabhupada really quite extensively utilized this purport. Many boys that we have here in the ashram from, Indian, Asian background, they have a lot of difficulties with their parents, young brahmacharis. And here it is. Here is the shastrical proof. Not me, Nārada Muni, saying that if your father instructs you on the material plane, then Nārada Muni is asking, the words of material father who endeavors to engage his son in material activities are not the real instructions of the father. So this is a brahmachari shastra pass for for unsatisfied parents. And believe it or not, these things happen when the parents naturally have the affinity and inclinations and plans and desires with the offspring to engage them in perpetuating their family lineage and not allowing them to enter into renounced order of life. So if you declare some spiritual values in your life, then we should be able to receive direct shastrical sort of a resolution of Narada Muni in terms of who is our real father. If our real father, if our physical, biological father is in line with our father, the scriptures, then it's a bona fide parenthood. If no, here Narada Muni is churning the hearts of the Haryashvas. If your father is not speaking spiritual topics, then is he truly your real father? Shukadev Goswami continued, my dear king, after hearing the instructions of Narada, the Arya Haryashvas, the sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa, were firmly convinced. They all believed in his instructions and reached the same conclusion. Having accepted him as their spiritual master, they circumambulated and that great sage and followed the path by which one never returned to this world. 10,000 sons gone. That's the power of Narada Muni. The 7 musical notes, sa, ra, ga, ma, pa, dha, and ni, are used in musical instruments, but originally they come from the Samaveda. The great sage Narada vibrates sounds describing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. By such transcendental vibrations, such as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he fixes his mind at the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus he directly perceives Harshikesh, the master of the senses. After delivering the Haryashvas, Narada Muni continued traveling throughout the planetary systems, his mind always fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. Continue reading. Krishna. The Haryashvas, the sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa, were very well behaved, cultured sons, but unfortunately, because of the instructions of Narada Muni, they deviated from the order of their father. When Dakṣa heard this news, which was brought to him by Narada Muni, he began to lament. Although he was the father of such good sons, he had lost them all. Certainly, this was lamentable. When Prajāpati Dakṣa was lamenting for his lost children, Lord Brahma pacified him with instructions, and thereafter Dakṣa begot 1,000 more children in the womb of his wife, Panchajani. This time his sons were known as Savalashvas. In accordance with their father's order to beget children, the second group of sons also went to Narayan Saras, the same place where their brothers had previously attained perfection by following the instructions of Narada. Undertaking great vows of austerity, the Savalashvas remained at that holy place. My goodness, there's a plot twist here. At Narayan Saras, the second group of sons performed penances in the same way as the first. They bathed in the holy water, and by its touch, all the dirty material desires in their hearts were cleansed away. They murmured mantras beginning with Omkara and underwent severe course of austerities. For a few months, the sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa drank only water and ate only air. Thus, undergoing great austerities, they recited this mantra. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayan. Om Namo Narayana Purushaya Mahatmane Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Mahashamsaya Dhimahi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead who is always situated in his transcendent abode. Since he is the Supreme Person, Paramahansa, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. Dhimahi, we always offer. O King Parikshit, Nārada Muni approached these sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa, who were engaged in tapasya to beget children, and spoke enigmatic words to them just as he had spoken to the elder brothers, the Ashwas. O sons of Dakṣa, please hear my words of instructions attentively. You are very affectionate to your elder brothers, the Ashwas. Therefore, you should follow their path. Here comes the transcendental stir. A brother aware of the principles of religion follows in the footsteps of his elder brothers. Because of being highly elevated, such pious brothers gets the opportunity to associate and enjoy with demigods like the Maruts, who are all affectionate to their brothers. Shukadev Goswami continued, O best of the advanced Aryans, after saying this much to the sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa, Nārada Muni, whose material glance never goes in vain, whose merciful glance never goes in vain, left as he had planned. The sons of Dakṣa followed their elder brothers. Not attempting to produce children, they engaged themselves in Krishna consciousness. So the first batch of the Hari Ashwas, there was a sort of a certain presentation. And again, we see the unique ability of Narada Muni to be very persuasive and to deliver the right message in the right time, in the right circumstances, to the right people, and say the right words. He understood that the nature of the Salvashvas were that they've been very much connected to their senior brothers. They've been maybe even looking up to them. They performed austerities, they became purified, and they understood, and maybe in cores of their hearts, they've been attached to the renunciation of their 10,000 older brothers. So what he took to Narada Muni, just to tip that one first domino and allow the domino effect to take place. He said, you are all very affectionate, great sons of Prajāpati Dakṣa. Therefore, you should follow your brothers. It's in your heart. Just do what you want to do. Follow. And this interesting tip, it tipped the balance and the hearts of the second batch, the 1,000 sons of Dakṣa, got inclined towards following the path of renunciation. The Salvashvas took the correct path, which is obtainable by mode of life meant to achieve devotional service, or the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like knights that have gone to the west, they have not returned even until now. They're still there. At this time, Prajāpati Dakṣa observed many inauspicious signs, and he heard from various sources that his second group of sons, the Savalashvas, had followed the path of their elder brothers in accordance to the instructions of Nārada. When he heard that the Savalashvas had also left this world to engage in devotion, says Dakṣa was angry at Nārada, and he almost fainted due to the lamentation. When Dakṣa met Nārada, Dakṣa's lips began trembling in anger, and he spoke as follows. Alas, Nārada Muni, you wear the dress of a saintly person, but you are actually not a saint. Indeed, although I am now in Grihastha life, I am a saintly person. By showing my sons the path of renunciation, you have done me abominable injustice. You took 11,000 of my sons. That's powerful. My sons were not at all freed from their 3 debts. Indeed, they did not properly consider their obligations, or Nārada Muni, or personality of sinful action. You have obstructed their progress towards good fortune in this world and the next, because they are still indebted to the saintly person, the demigods, and their father. Thus committing violence against other living entities and yet claiming to be associate of Lord Vishnu, you are defaming the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You needlessly created a mentality of renunciation in innocent voice, and therefore you're shameless and devoid of compassion. How could you travel with the personal associates of the Supreme Lord? Here we see how Prajāpati Dakṣa, steered by the whole situation of contemplating and received the instruction upon his head from his father, Lord Brahma, created this tremendously humongous progeny of 11,000 sons and lost them all to Brahmacharya, lost them all to this traveling saint Nārada Muni, who travels through the universes, vibrates his Veena, and gets gentlemen and young boys to join his transcendental course of liberation. And this really upsetted Prajāpati Dakṣa. And you know what? Some of the Shastras, they say that Prajāpati Daksha's cause was also transcendental because he's acting on the instructions of Brahma. He was acting on the instructions of his father to populate the universe and to create progeny, which Brahma himself got instructed with the Supreme Lord. So there are almost two completely opposite instructions. One is from Brahma, which comes from the Supreme Lord, create progeny and populate this universe. And there is another line of instruction coming from Nārada, which means utilize the art and the power of renunciation to take all the living entities back to Godhead. So you can say both of these instructions are correct in their sort of it's like two people arguing that what is better, chanting japa or perform harinam. And they start having an argument. What is better, distributing books or distributing prasadam? What is better, worshipping Jagannath or worshipping, I don't know, Krishna Balaram? What is better, worshipping Gaurnitai or Radha Krishna? And arguments of this nature. So both of them, in their own ways, based on their own niche, based on their own nature, based on their own duty, based on their own levels of realization, perform the right actions. Prajāpati Dakṣa created a progeny to procreate in the universe as was instructed by Brahma. Nārada Muni, also a son of Brahma, was traveling across the universe and liberating living entities to bring them back to Godhead. So who was mistaken? Where's the difficulty? All the devotees of the Lord, but you are very kind to the conditioned souls and are eager to benefit others. Although you wear the dress of a devotee, you create enmity with people who are not your enemies, or you break friendships and create enmity between friends. Are you not ashamed of posing as a devotee while performing these abominable actions? Fire has been shot. Or is the other way, shots has been fired. Prajāpati Dakṣa continued, if you think that simply awakening the sense of renunciation would detach one from the material world, I must say that unless full knowledge is awakened, simply changing dress as you have done cannot possibly bring detachment. And this is true. This is a powerful thing that Dakṣa is saying. Just because you think you'll be wearing saffron cloth, but in your heart, in your mind, you will have thousands and thousands of desires. What's the value of that renunciation? If you don't utilize the activities of duty or understanding the nature of your desires, even if they're slightly connected with the material desires, like if you have desire for sense gratification or for family life, just by taking a saffron cloth, it doesn't mean that the seed, the lata, the bija of your desires will disappear. So you, Narada Muni, you thinking that just by inducing these boys to become brahmacharis and renunciates, do you think that their desires will disappear? That's what Prajāpati Dakṣa was asking. They still had duties on their heads. The forefathers, the demigods to satisfy, the sages to be satisfied. Yet you think that just by some act of brahmacharya, they become liberated. So both sides are correct. Prajapati Daksha was saying some heavy correct things. That let them rather be engaged in their occupational duties and purify their desires and then become, spiritually elevated by performing karma yoga or performing their uh, swadharma. Material enjoyment is indeed the cause of all unhappiness. Wise words, it is. But one cannot give it up unless one has personally experienced how much suffering it is. And this is interesting. Therefore, one should be allowed to remain in so-called material enjoyment while simultaneously advancing in knowledge to experience the misery of this false material happiness. Then, without help from others, one will find material enjoyment distasteful. Those whose minds are changed by others do not become renounced as those who have personal experience. It is said that there are different types of individual which are sort of practicing spirituality. Some people they're able to learn on mistakes of others. Some people are able to learn just by reading and hearing, and some people need to go through the experiences and experience it themselves. But here, the counter argument or the other perspective was the purity of Narada Muni's words and him being the empowered personality to deliver bhakti and the process of devotion was able to fully mitigate all the accumulated desires of these Hari Ashvas and Salva Ashvas and overcome the element of time which otherwise would be invested in purifying these desires in the realm of material and grihastha life. So what Narada Muni did, he took the long route, the fast route. He said, immediately renounce, engage in the process of bhakti, all your desires become purified. Then Prajāpati Dakṣa was also saying, allow them to enter in the material life, to develop distaste towards material life by engaging in so-called fruitive activities. And eventually they will come out of these fruitive activities as purified beings who will desire nothing else but by just spiritual benefit and spiritual emancipation and connection with the Lord. So the real question is, Narada Muni was presenting the fast track of renunciation, and Prajapati Daksha was the slower track of engaging your material desires and propensities in material life. And in the end, you'll become purified to renounce and become more detached from the material activities, material life. That was a very interesting point. Although I live in household life with my wife and children, I honestly follow the Vedic injunctions by engaging in fruitive activities to enjoy life without sinful reactions. I have performed all kinds of yagyas, including the Deva yagya, Rishi yagya, Pitri yagya, and Dri yagya. Because these yagyas are called vratas, vows, I am known as Griha Vrata. Unfortunately, you have given me great displeasure by misguiding my sons for no reason to the path of renunciation. This can be tolerated once. Once I forgave you, second time no more. You have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore you are a rascal who does not know how to behave towards others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, my dear king, since Narada Muni is an approved saintly person, when cursed by Prajapati Daksha, he replied, Tat Badham, yes, what you have said is good. I accept this curse. He could have, it's just so funny. He could have cursed Prajapati Daksha in return, but because he is a tolerant and merciful sadhu, he took no action. So that's the story of Narada Muni, how he gets himself into troubles and how he received the curse of Prajapati Daksha, how he quote unquote stole 11,000 sons of Prajapati Daksha, received the curse, and accepted that he cannot stay anywhere for an elongated amount of time. He can only stay for couple of minutes, 11, 12, 15 minutes. I don't actually know the exact time. And he can preach, he can deliver, and he can go. Prabhupada used to say, I am just like Nārada Muni. I cannot stay in one place for too long. I constantly have to move. That's why Prabhupada traveled so many times around the world, because he was cursed by the parents of the young boys and girls that he attracted to the Hare Krishna movement. He got cursed that he cannot stay in one place too long. Just like in the footsteps of Narada Muni and the story of Prajāpati Dakṣa. Hare Krishna. So this was a fast-paced through the chapter. Thank you so much. If there are any comments, questions, points, reflections, please do share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhu. That was a wonderful class. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand. I'll start off first of all, and it is a question that it is something that you've answered within this the context of everything. But the first part of my question is that why were the two sort of boys called two different names? Because obviously they're from the same lineage, the same mother, and yet they were given two different names. So I couldn't understand that. But the second part of my question, which is something that you did answer, both instructions did come from Krishna, but there were outcomes were poles apart. So surely you would get Krishna's what Krishna wanted you to do to aim in the same direction. So that's the bit that I can't understand. The outcomes were totally, north and south, should I say? So if you could answer that, please.
The different two names were the names for the groups. So the first groups, the Hari Ashvas, was the group of the 10,000 sons of Prajapati Daksha. The second group, the Salvashvas, that was the group of 1,000 sons. They naturally had their own individual names. Within Srimad Bhagavatam, they just got grouped into, they just got grouped like this. Reason why they got named like that, I can't really tell. That's beyond me. And the second question, is that interesting, right? That sounds very interesting. Because, for instance, we can see even in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada was like, Prabhupada said, every boy should be a brahmachari and every girl should be married. So if you think about it, how is that on earth possible? If every male, every boy should be a brahmachari, every girl should be married, that doesn't add on. So these are seemingly contradictory instructions. But you see, in the spiritual plane, if you have these two seemingly contradictory lines, one is the line of step-by-step purification through the following the process of varnashram. Another one is the line of immediate intense, almost you can say right-wing orientated orthodox, immediate renunciation and immediate connection to Krishna. Both of these paths, they have a seemingly clash, but it's almost like a transcendental competition. Both of them are correct. Both of them have their source in the scriptures. Both of them have the ultimate conclusions, the Supreme Lord. But both of them have a certain healthy amount of how to word it, like a healthy amount of challenge between them. It's almost like two paths going the same direction, but there's some transcendental rasa or transcendental sort of a healthy competition between these two paths. I consider it very sweet. I find it very amusing. Both of them are correct, but simultaneously, both of them leading to the same destination. And yeah, one represents the Prajāpati Dakṣa, the path of purification by family life, and one represented by Nārada Muni, the cultivation of renunciation. So who will win? But so far it looks like that the progeny of Prajāpati Dakṣa, at least at this stage, is winning. So So it's interesting. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Janakana Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for a wonderful class, as usual.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'm just wondering about this phrase you use about what's the benefit, and I'm just thinking if we approach any activities with a mindset, what's the benefit? How is that? How does it equate to the phrase that we often hear, or the advice we given, not to have fruitive desires from your activities?
Wow, that's a very, very deep question. Very nice question, Janukanya. You see, on a actually everything that we do is somehow permeated by this question: what is the benefit? So fruitive activity doesn't mean you can ask still what is the benefit. Like for instance, when you distribute books, you can ask yourself what is the benefit, and you can say, I please my spiritual master, the books go out. So who is benefited? I am benefited by engaging in the activity. The person is benefited by receiving the book, and the whole environment is surcharged by spiritual atmosphere. So anyone who enters is benefited. So somehow or another, what is the benefit? It's the way that we approach the question. It's like, for instance, the karma yoga is what is the benefit for me, and what do I get out of it? But even on the spiritual plane, 99% of all of us are on the plane that even when you engage in devotional service, you still think, what do I get from it in form of purity and spiritual advancement? Why should I get a spiritual master? Because the benefit is that you will be connected to the parampara. What is the benefit of me reading Bhagavad Gita? Because my intellect gets benefited. But our benefit is not just the material benefit based on material calculation, but benefit to eventually go back to the spiritual realm. So we still ask that question, what is the benefit? But in that end is also Krishna. We understand Krishna is the benefactor, and ultimately the greatest type of benefit is that we will establish that relationship with Krishna. It's not necessarily a fruitive calculation or a fruitive mentality, but it's a mentality which allows us to be unalloyed in our future actions. I don't know if that makes sense. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. And the example you gave about the father and the son following the family lineage, how effective is that to the son in the case of a physically or emotionally missing father?
Can you elaborate on that question a
I'm
bit more,
just
please?
thinking about, a child is having to follow the father's instructions of what he becomes as a professional normally, and then the child rebels later on when he's grown up, not often when they're young. How is that? What if there is a father that's there but emotionally and physically not present, but is expected to follow that? I mean, would the child be following a drunken father, for instance, or an absent father who is emotionally absent and physically absent at times? Most of the time, I would say.
It's quite a packed question. I would say parents, fathers and mothers in general want their best for their children. But the best is according to their understanding of what is the best. I know, but whenever I had some arguments with my parents, I know that whatever they've been presenting to me was the best intentions according to their level of understanding. But as we grow, as we mature, and as we create our perspective, and as we create our individuality in terms of understanding what is the best and what is the less, second best, third best, and so on. And especially when it comes to the question of spirituality and Krishna consciousness, these type of perspectives usually have a tendency to clash. And naturally, the child is indebted to the parents, but the best way to pay the debt to their parents and to their ancestors is chanting Hare Krishna, entering into the realm of pure devotional service, and in this way purifying the existence of the ancestors and the generations before them. It is said that if someone goes back to Godhead, that 7 generations above receive tremendous amount of benefit from that one devotee practitioner in their family lineage. So the greatest boon, greatest benediction is someone in your life, in your household, becomes a devotee. We can see it in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, particularly, how he received instruction from his mother, and then by him completing his life, his mother was also sort of collected by the Vishnu Dutas, taken to the realm of Vaikuntha. I don't know, is that satisfactory as an answer?
Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you very much, Haribol.
Thank you,
Okay.
Janu Kanya.
Thank you, Mataji. Jay Mataji, would you like to ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the lovely class. My question is about the fast route and the short route that you talked about. So the fast route suggested by Nārada Muni as opposed to the Dakṣa, Prajāpati Dakṣa's route. But my thinking is that if by taking the short route, or sorry, the long route that Prajāpati Dakṣa wanted them to take, would they have not entered into material life and build up more and more karmas, which then would have taken them even longer to come out of that cycle of life and death? So would the father not have thought that way, that it's best to come out early of that cycle rather than go through the long way? But I can see both, but it's just in my mind that why would you want to spend too much into material life and end up building more karmas, because that would have taken you even longer then.
I would say your understanding is very much correct. And so Prajāpati Dakṣa, his argument was that if these boys will get trained correctly, that's why he sent them in the first place to a sacred space, sacred area for them to perform their austerities, to get spiritually strong enough to enter the Grihastha ashram with the right state of mind, with the right consciousness. So Dakṣa did everything correctly in the sense that, okay, you guys go, perform austerities, get yourself correctly, strongly situated in your renunciation, and then when you enter your Grihastha ashram, you'll be powerful enough not to deviate from your path of Grihastha duties. But you said very correctly that if you enter into this path of the slower route, or the route which has many social obligations, family obligations, karmic obligations, perform this yagya, that yagya, be in a certain circle of people, there's a greater opportunity that somehow down the route there may be certain shortage and certain opportunity for a fall down in terms of the depth and intensity of the practice. So, but Prajāpati Dakṣa, because his consciousness was also Prajāpati, the great progenitor, that was his mind frame. His mind frame was, okay, I do my duty as a householder, as a family man, as a father, as a husband. I will do it properly. I will perform the yagyas. I will give the charity. I will be good. I will be creating a lot of punya. I will be worshipping the Lord. But I will have family, I will have children, I will have grandkids, I will do this, I will do that. So I will also enjoy the path of Grihastha ashram, and then in the end I'll renounce. So that was his mindset, and with this mindset, he wanted to impose that mindset upon his sons, because again, as we said, he thought this is the best path that he knows, and his brother Nārada Muni had different ideas. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
thank you. It's very much a bit like parents allowing their children to make mistakes so that they then grow up and come out of it. I don't know. Something like that.
Good point. This is a brahmachari pastime, this particular part of Srimad Bhagavatam. As I said before, we have a lot of brahmacharis which their parents are very, very upset with them coming to the ashram. On top of my head, I know 4 in our ashram now. So it's something with you know, Asian families, that Indian families, that they have these desires of his sons naturally. You know, okay, go for the ashram for some time, but come back, have a family, have a job, bring grandchildren, do this, do that. It's interesting because I'm from Slovakia, right, which is Eastern Europe, and very much a sort of a Western mindset. When I said to my parents at the age of 22, I was like, okay, I'm going to the temple, I'm going to become a monk. So they naturally had certain reservations. They haven't been so happy with it, but they also understand that to a certain degree, I have my own desires, own needs, own aspirations in life. And as much as they love me, they're like, okay, do what you need to do. And we have good, healthy relationship, but in a certain age, they wouldn't really like force me to follow their path or their desires. They mention it now and then, why I don't have children, why I don't do this, why I don't do that. But same time, they're very happy and supportive. So I personally feel very blessed. Hope that's
Thank you,
okay to say.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so Devi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you very much for tonight's class. What I wonder is both Nārada Muni and I have a difficulty with the name,
Dakṣa.
both of them follow the rule and how to say, the role that they had on themselves. And Nārada Muni, who has been a spiritual master of so many, even Vyasa, still he's going and doing that, despite that he knows that this is what his role is, this is what he have to do. He is created for you just that, and he has to do that. And Nārada Muni goes and change the situation. I mean, isn't it so that he should know that this is not that he's a materialist? It is his role, Dakṣa's role, to make sons, and the sons get children, and the children get children, to just have the, how to say, to fill the universe with the children, right?
Yes.
And still that Nārada goes and destroys this or change it.
Yeah, he's a rebel. He stirs things. This is nothing what he did, you know. When you should see him what he did to Devaki, and so when Devaki was imprisoned, he went to Kamsa, and Kamsa was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna kill the children of Devaki," and Nārada Muni was like, "Whoa, you don't know?" And then he started calculating. What was it? The 8th child will be the source of your death, and he started calculating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then he started calculating back, and he somehow with fingers he did like, or maybe the 3rd child is actually the one is going to, maybe the fourth one, maybe the fifth one, and he completely bewildered Kamsa to the degree that he actually killed all the children of Devaki. So he steers things just to enhance the pastime of the Lord and to attract Krishna Balaram to come even faster. But he know the background of the story that the 8 sons of Devaki, they've been actually they've been cursed in their previous lives to only come for a brief moment of time to this world. So we may see things in one frame picture, but Narada Muni sees the bigger picture. So he is well known as someone who steers the tides of spiritual flow. He's the one who disturbs things, but eventually the disturbance leads to 11,000 Hari Ashvas to be spiritually benefited and escalating their advancement to go back to Godhead. So the question may be raised, is he a bad person? Or ultimately he has just a different perspective on what is the goal of Krishna consciousness. So he helped those 11,000 boys not to get implicated and immediately go back to Godhead without wasting time. Is that a bad thing? So Narada Muni, as I said, he's a transcendental disruptor. That's his rasa.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Can I ask you another question? You mentioned 8 children, and I have read Bhagavad Gita, and I have read Mahabharata and everything, and even there in Mahabharata, Bhishma is the 8th child, also.
Bhishma Dev.
Yes. Is there any connection between that 8 and this 8?
Oh, Krishna. I exactly know what you mean. I think there was that pastime with King Shantanu.
Yes.
No, that was with
was
King Shantanu and Bhishma and Mother Ganga.
Yes,
right?
because Bhishma in his rishi role, he had to take the cow, and without having he shouldn't do it, and his brother says don't do it, and then he take the cow, but then he get cursed, and that all of them go to Ganga and ask her to please.
Yeah, they get thrown into Ganga one by one.
And because there is 8 here and 8 there, and I thought, is there any connection between these two?
No, I don't think it's this pastime. I apologize. I knew this pastime quite in a detailed form, but I forgot. I don't want to speculate because I don't want to take you on a wrong route. But
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember. Okay. But it's an interesting pastime that you mentioned, and nice way that you picked it up. Hare Krishna.